It's now October the 18th, 2008, a little bit after 10 a.m. and finally we're in the sun here. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous day right next to the Detroit River. And I'm here with local expert Bob Goldsmith from Detroit Tour Connections. Hi Bob, nice to see you again.
Hi Suzanne.
And we're on a Detroit architectural tour, but of course Bob is telling me a lot more about Detroit than just architecture. And we are at a really significant spot here. What area are we at here?
Well, it's our Civic Center area, and it really goes back to where Detroit was founded by the French in 1701. They arrived by boat, so really they founded Detroit right here on the shore of the river. And we had a long time where Detroit was real small and just clustered here by the river before it grew to be the big metropolis that it is now. Let me show you,
give you a little bit of more of the landscape. Bob's standing right in front here of the Renaissance Center, which is, you know, a little bit of a distance, but a nice backdrop to this location. The Detroit River is right here, and the morning sun is beaming at us here from the east, looking at Canada here, Windsor. Going in that direction with the Ambassador Bridge, which is, I think, the busiest
international truck crossing that we have.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful bridge since 1929. And then we also have the Detroit-Windsor Tunnel.
Yes.
So you can take the tunnel underneath the river or take the bridge across the river.
Exactly. And then obviously that must be a local landmark, a floating landmark, the Detroit Princess.
Right. It's a old Mississippi River boat that I think used to involve gambling.
Oh yeah?
And it was brought up here a few years ago. It doesn't involve gambling, it involves dining and entertainment, and it's just a very beautiful boat.
Great. But even more importantly, we have a very important monument right in front of us here.
Right. Detroit was a stop on the Underground Railroad, and that's what this sculpture is about. In fact, there's the one gentleman who's pointing, and you can see he's sort of wearing a suit. He's a Detroiter, a man of some means, I guess, and he was the head of Detroit's Underground Railroad, George de Baptiste. And then the other people are all more modestly dressed, and they're the runaway slaves who wanted to get to Detroit because ultimately they wanted to get to Canada. And by being here, by getting to Detroit and maybe hiding until nightfall, then they could come to the river at nighttime, have someone with a rowboat take them across the river to Canada, where they'd really be safe.
Exactly. And it says right here, the gateway to freedom. Ed Dwight was the sculptor who created this absolutely stunning sculpture right here. And these are flames, I would imagine, symbolic flames?
Right. They have lights that can shine on the sculpture at night from the other side. But there's also a tag. On the one side it says City of Charleston Servant, and then the other City of Charleston Free.
Beautiful. And yes,
there is also a companion sculpture in Windsor by Ed Dwight.
Oh, really?
And so these sculptures were from, I think the year 2001 is when they were unveiled for Detroit's tricentennial. Again, we were founded here in 1701. So they did the Gateway to Freedom here, and I think it's called Tower to Freedom, or Tower of Freedom, across the river in Windsor. And
you can see here, I think this map here sort of shows the migration patterns. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So coming from all sorts of different southern states, particularly to Detroit, and the Lake Erie shorelines, I guess, Lake Ontario to some degree.
Right, but to try to get a rowboat and take it across one of the Great Lakes, that would have been a little more difficult.
Exactly.
So right here where we've got the river is a good place to get across to Canada.
Wonderful. So we've got a beautiful statue here, or a sculpture. We've got the Renaissance Center, and we're going to make our way up now towards the fountain and various other interesting parts of this public area right here. Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome.